You can easily say I'm going to peel to the back post and try and score, but to do that is fair play to you.
Roy, just before you go on there, we are joined by the Liverpool manager, Arne Slot.
Well done.
Congratulations, Arne. Thank you very much for joining us. Did it play out pretty much as you envisaged, as you hoped it might?
Not the first few minutes. I think United started really aggressive, and we had to fight ourselves through that period. I think they took 2 or 3 corners as well. But if you go to Old Trafford, you know that there will be tough moments, and we fought ourselves through that. And one of the main things what I liked is after scoring a great goal, which was disallowed, that we just kept on playing the way we did before. And in the end, some nice goals. And we needed Alisson in the second half to make 2 important saves, but a deserved win, I think.
Can you tell us something of your game plan, particularly when it came to United's build-up from the back?
There's not a specific game plan in the build-up from the back, so we always want to press the opponent high. That's what Jurgen did. That's what we tried to continue. The game plan was more when we had the ball, where normally in the last 2 games Dominic Szoboszlai played more from the right. Today we played him from the left. But without the ball, we always try to press as high as we can. And we scored, I think, a few goals from a high press. Yeah, and 1 was disallowed. And that was from playing out from the back. So I would have loved that one to count, but unfortunately it didn't.
Arne, I saw your press conference and you mentioned that Manchester United's style is different this season in your opinion. What did you identify that allowed you to get this result today?
Last season they were man marking on the midfield and they had a press with the 7-9-11, so with the striker and one of the wingers jumped with him. This season they are more with a 9 and 10 press, so they're more in a 4-4-2. So that's different, of course. I see them, in my opinion, working harder if the ball is being played through them. So they run more than. So that's at least what I saw in the first games of them. Yeah.
Did you know when you would win it high up the pitch, you would be straight at them, really? As simple as that, if you could win it high up?
Simple as that. So their style is also this season, maybe last season as well, that I don't remember that well, but their fullbacks are 9 or 10 times really high, and then Casemiro comes in between. So if you pick the ball and you can keep Lucio, Luis Diaz and Mo Salah high, then you're constantly in a 1v1 situation. And then you need midfielders that can run, and we had 3 of them today that kept on running, and if they arrive in a duel, that they are aggressive enough to win it. So that was, I think, one of the main things why we could win today.
Is that in some ways a gamble from you in a sense to make sure that Mo Salah and Lucio Diaz are staying high up the pitch?
It's only a gamble if they play through or over that they stay where they are, but if they then sprint back, it's not a gamble. And I think today we saw a lot of moments where our forwards, but the whole team, but especially also our forwards, track back so aggressively. And I think that is what we need if you want to win these games, because if you don't, then the defenders come in underload, and that's not what you want if you play against these players, because United has, in my opinion, a lot of quality.
And what was your message at half-time, Arne, to your team? Because I suspect the whole stadium was expecting some kind of Manchester United reaction.
Yeah, so we said they're going to press differently, so be prepared for that. So we tried to find out what they were trying to do, but I also showed them 3 moments, where in one situation that led to a chance of Mazraoui, where Lucio was not tracking back as he should, and I came back to the moment where Trent lost the ball, but he played a sloppy pass towards Alisson. Those moments, like you know better than me, can change the game here at Old Trafford. So you need to be focused and concentrated every second if you want to win here.
We're talking about this game in a very cool, calculated, analytical way, but you'll be aware as well of the emotion that a victory like this brings to Liverpool fans and the joy winning 3-0 at Old Trafford.
Definitely, but tomorrow I go back to the Netherlands, and if I'm then in my hometown, okay, people will probably talk about it, but not as much as over here. So it's a good win, but if the players come back from the international team, so many games have to be played in a short period of time. So it's a good start.
It is a dream start, Arne. Might the fans be getting a little bit excited? Is it okay for them to get carried away?
I don't think they will listen to me if I tell them differently, but it's normal if you win a game like this, you've got 9 points and you win a big game at Old Trafford, that the fans are excited. But for us there's still a lot to prove, starting if we play a double program with the Champions League games and then 3 days later a league game. Then we have to be ready, and 2 years ago was the last time Liverpool played Champions League, and we all know what was the end result of that season. So for us a lot to prove. if we play Champions League and in the weekends.
We wish you well, Arne. Thank you so much for talking to us, and congratulations on a huge result today. Just 3 games into his Liverpool era in the Premier League, Arne Slot has won at Old Trafford by 3-0. And he is so cool. He is so calm, Daniel. He seems pretty unflappable. Early stages, he seems pretty unflappable.
He must think the Premiership is easy. Yeah. What's the big
He's making
deal?
it look pretty
He
easy
does,
so
he
far.
is.
He's a chill guy, man. I really, respect and like how he's approached it, to be fair. Specifically when he's speaking to the likes of us, but also the performances that he's embedded within the players, because for them to pick up his tactics this fast, you see the rotations that they're doing now. You see the passes going into Salah that weren't there. You'd see the rotations.
Just explain that a little
Trent.
bit more. What do you see as the biggest differences?
I think that they're on the front. I'm not going to say they're on the front foot more, but I think there's more rotations within the team. There's players higher up the pitch. Obviously, Szoboszlai's picking up nice positions in between the gaps. You've got passes going from the right back into the midfielder that are then going into Salah. There's balls going from the defender straight into Salah, which wasn't the case prior to that. It was maybe more of a transition style. This seems like it's a lot more control based, but I like where it's going.
Yeah, and sometimes we discuss that manager, when he comes into a job, will take time. It'll take time to settle in. It'll take time for the players to get his ideas, what way they're going to play. But you're looking today, you're going, he looks like he's been here a long time, and the players they're all up to speed with what he wants. The players coming off the bench, his decision making, and of course when you win, everything seems amazing in his decision making. But it looks like they've all picked up his messages very, very quick, and clearly that's a sign of obviously a very good coach.
And if there were doubts within the dressing room, what impact would these results have on those players?
Well, you can't beat winning. And to be fair, Salah's made a good point. The results, when a new manager comes in, listen, he's replacing an amazing manager.
A legend.
Yeah, of course, exactly. But sometimes it's just a new voice for people like Salah, who, as he said, sometimes you do get comfortable, whether you like it or not, subconsciously. So a new voice, new ideas in training. He'll obviously have new staff with him. And sometimes that gives the players a little bit of a lift. Because Liverpool obviously have got quality players. But he's also made the point as well, there's challenges to come up now in terms of midweek games, travelling, Champions League. And that's another challenge, considering he only made one signing.
Used to be.
Welcome, Jamie Carragher and Gary Neville. I'm sure we'll get into the different emotions of that game. We'll get into United perspective as well before we leave you. But we'll have a look through the goals as a starting point. We'll revisit the first goal scored by Luis Diaz. And there was a theme which we discussed with Arne Slot, guys. And that was Manchester United losing possession and the way that Liverpool capitalised by leaving those wide players high up the pitch.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about Liverpool in this fixture last season. That's what they didn't do. They didn't capitalise on these situations. So it's still the same manager. More often than not, it's the same players for Manchester United. So we're seeing the same things. Talk about players behind the ball, the rest defence. The fullbacks are really high. And when you look at the players they've got there, Casemiro and De Ligt, to be as fair as well, not the quickest. And actually, Diaz, he does really well there. Because Szoboszlai's just in front of him. There was talk of maybe a handball as well. But the fact, I thought, when the cross came in initially, I mean, it's brilliant from Mo Salah. I mean, if that was on his left foot, we'd say it was a great cross. But doing that on his right foot, and Szoboszlai does well, and Diaz does even better to make sure he finds the back of the net.
You have to give credit to Gravenberch on that goal as well, because he won it back and also played the pass to Salah.
Gary, what about this one?
But this isn't sort of like high pressing or brilliant defensive work. Manchester United's in possession play in those deep areas was absolutely terrible.
But do you
when
think
they lose it, it's when they lose it, it's where the fullback.
Is it a
shape's
set-up
all
issue?
wrong.
Is it a set-up issue where that central midfield player, that deep pivot is getting the ball?
Dave,
there are no
individual-
options for
no,
him.
they're not, Dave. They're individual errors. They're individual errors that basically are terrible areas. When we played at United, me and Danny Sherwin would go forward and leave our two centre-backs on the ball, and with Roy Keane and Paul Scholes. And if they give the ball away, we'd be in a bit of trouble. But they didn't do it that often.
You wouldn't be that high, Gary. You wouldn't be that high from that position. I don't think so. Not the two of you.
Do you have sympathy then with Casemiro and also Kobe Mainoo in when they're receiving the ball? What's in front of them?
Well, not sympathy, because at this level they expect to do better. But it still shouldn't be as simple as when there's one mistake like that, when you're 40, 50, that one pass, somebody's in on goal. I don't think it should be as simple as that. But it is. We saw it a few weeks ago, and we see it again with this one. And again, they've got to do better. Look at Mainoo. He's had a brilliant few months. He loses it. And look at this, if you just stop it there. don't think that should ever happen. Once again, the two full-backs, they're just coming back into the picture. If you're a full-back and you see your midfield getting it, you should always be expecting the worst going. He might lose it here. But the two of them are out of the picture.
Roy, I'm not sure, honestly, because as the ball used to travel in to you or Scholes, I'd be flying on the far side. I'd be trusting that
not when he's got his back to play. If I'm facing up the pitch and I expect you to be running, of course, but he's still not in proper control of that. That's what you'd say to your teammate, unless you see your mate in control of it.
So you think it's a set-up problem, Roy?
A bit of everything, yeah. I just think if you're full back, you pass it in. You should, as a defender, we always say, expect the worst. Expect your mate to lose it. But they're running back in. They're on the outside looking in. They should be back inside. And then if you see your mate in a good position, you go, listen, I can run onto it. That's what I think.
I mean, it goes on. Listen, there's a lot to get into. We'll get into it. I mean, that is so bad from the goalkeeper. I mean, that was awful to let that goal in. But
gave him the eyes.
But go back to what you're mentioning, Dave, in terms of what's the plan when they get the ball, if you like. Now, I don't think there really is one. I think it's a bit like individual play. If a midfield player does something good, then he'll find a nice pass. In 3 games under Arne Slot, I can see 2 or 3 things with the midfield players. Like, for instance, today, McAllister, they've got a pattern of play going where when it comes to me, he goes one touch. He's done it 3 times today. That's something that, you've worked on. There was the one where I said, I think in commentary, where they play a couple of passes, then they get into Salah's feet. You can see that after 3 games. I don't think there's anything, and we're already into the 3rd year of Ten Hag, that I go, that's what they do in that situation. And that's why I think they have problems. When they're in midfield, you look up and it's a bit like anybody could be in any position making any different run.
And remember last year, United, how many home games did United do last year? And we were here a couple of weeks ago, and if Fulham were a little bit better, they would have punished Man United. But the fact is today, so United are making the same mistakes from last year. They've done it so far this season. Even at Brighton, it was a game of, who's going to win it, you could lose it, whatever. And United are playing that way. And again, when they do give it away and they make mistakes, which is going to happen because teams are going to do the homework, like Liverpool said, look lads, if we win it high up the pitch and we press them, the manager said, he says, we know there are 2 full-backs up the pitch, we're going to have an extra body, and when you have that quality to go with it, you will be punished.
We'll hear from Erik ten Hag shortly. Daniel, do you think there's anything different about Liverpool than once they were winning back possession? No. Compared to previous seasons. I mean, Jamie did a big piece of analysis on Monday Night Football about them almost being a bit too helter-skelter when they were charging through on goal.
Liverpool?
Yeah, last season.
Oh, yeah, I think this year there's a calmness there, I would say. I think that they have ways to get into positions now. But I think it's the new messaging, and I think just the players have kind of grasped it. Players are in positions now. Szoboszlai is in the hole. He's able to affect the game higher up the pitch. Like I said, just the way that they're breaking teams down and playing through. They've got ways to play through now. Before it was maybe rotations with Trent coming in midfield, so on and so forth. But for me, when I talk about Man United, I actually think you need defensive midfielders or someone who's very defensive minded to play a 4-4, in my opinion, or 4. It looked like 4-2-4 at times. So if you're leaving 2 guys in there, they obviously have to have an immense capacity to run and also defensive minded, which is why obviously they signed Ugarte. It's clear to see.
Do you think Ugarte, Gary, would have made the difference today playing in that position?
I don't know. I mean, players can make individual errors like Casemiro did for the first goal, and Ugarte may give a ball away like that at times. Whether that would lead to a goal or not, I don't know. The difference for Liverpool, for me, and why they scored those goals is that last time what we saw a lot of was maybe Nunez on the ball, Gakpo not at his best, Diaz. The ball fell to Mo Salah. Mo Salah is a different level than any of the players that are playing out on that pitch today. He's a different level and he's absolutely world class. So for me, the reason sometimes it can look a bit frantic for Liverpool is when it ends up with maybe Diaz or it ends up with Nunez or it ends up with Gakpo, and they can look a little bit sort of like unorthodox and a little bit raw, whereas Salah gets the ball in those 2 areas and he's just perfect and precise, and that was the difference.
Jamie, he did say to us, Mo Salah, I know you weren't here at that time, he did say to us, this is my last season at Liverpool. He said, I haven't heard from the club.
Well, there is a positive out today.
This is my last appearance at Old Trafford, but it almost sounded a little bit like
he didn't sound like nothing, Dave. Stop trying to instigate. So he's over there trying to instigate some. He said what he said. Look, you answer it, but look, I personally, I don't know, man.
I mean, we've just been speaking on the podcast, and I think Mo Salah is obsessed a little bit like Ronaldo in scoring records, appearance records, longevity in the game. And I think for most of us, you think when you get to 35, you're sort of done in football. I think the way that lad looks after himself, I think he's probably looking at maybe playing till he's 40 or certainly late 30s. I don't think a Saudi situation, if you like, is on the cards next season for Mo Salah. He's too good a player. He's playing in the best league in the world. He's playing for one of the biggest clubs in the world. And I think whether it's this season or another 2 seasons down the line, he's alongside Kenny Dalglish and Steven Gerrard in terms of the top players to ever play for Liverpool, and possibly one of the best wingers, if not the best wide player we've seen in this league. He hasn't got the medals that maybe some other players have got in that role.
So do you fight to keep him?
Of course you fight to keep him.
So do you throw the money at him?
Well, it's not about throwing the money at him. When you get a new contract, it's not about what you've done in the past, it's what you're going to do in the future. And more often than not, for most players, when you get into your mid-30s, you can't do what you've done before. He might be different. Now, that's what I think the argument will be. Of course, Liverpool want to keep him and Virgil van Dijk, but it will probably be about wages. Are they still on the same wage that they're at? Because in the next 2 or 3 years, we'll be the same player. So that's the debate that we'll be having. But I'll be very surprised if Mo Salah isn't playing for Liverpool next season, because I think he'll want to blitz every record in the club's history.
You agree?
I mean, I do. I feel.
So why are you having a go at me for?
Because I feel he wants to. You were saying
he
he wants to leave, and I'm saying I don't
That's
believe.
not what I said.
You said that it's his last game at Manchester United.
That's what he said.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is I don't believe that in his mind he wants to leave the club. I don't believe that. I believe he's saying, look, show me the money, baby.
That's what I think he said. That's what I think he
Yeah,
said.
but he will have great options, won't he?
He will have
the
options.
he will have, and that would be tempting for him.
Well, you say that, Roy, and I agree with you on a free transfer. Who wouldn't want Mo Salah? But I just think in the Premier League now is so strong, and that if you're in the top 4 in the Premier League and you're in the Champions League the following season, you've probably got a decent chance of getting to the quarters, semis. Who else is... We always say Real Madrid or Barcelona. Barcelona are not the force that they've been. They've got huge financial problems. Real Madrid, we know, are a level above anyone. Would they bring in Mo Salah at his
He's gone
age?
abroad before, hasn't he? So his experience gone abroad before. And again, sometimes family decisions, lifestyle. Listen, whatever we say, whether we like it or not, the money does come into it. And he's certainly getting offered more money than maybe what Liverpool could afford to give him. So all that has to go in the mix. But when he was here, he was quite chirpy and quite happy, as he would be after a good result. And it's just come the end of the season, but he fancies just a new challenge, Jamie. That's all it is. Of course, leaving Liverpool would be difficult for him, no doubt about it.
Sharpen everyone's minds, because he's been so brilliant today, because he's started this season on fire. 3 goals, 3 assists. And Daniel was obviously suggesting that he was leaving. But I wasn't suggesting anything.
Well, he said he is leaving.
I think he wants to stay. He wants a contract offer very time soon. We have got a lot more to do here at Old Trafford this evening. I'm hearing that Erik ten Hag is imminent. So in the meantime, we are going to cross to the States to hear more about the US Open with Emma Payton.
Obviously, it's a really disappointing day. How and why do you think you were beaten today? And by such a convincing scoreline as well.
We make mistakes, and they were very clinical in finishing, and they did very well.
Did you actually feel like you'd made quite a good start to the game, and then it seemed to become really open, and it felt like Liverpool attackers were running at your defenders time and again?
No, I don't think so. If I see all the chances we conceded, I don't think that's what happened. I think we make mistakes. All the 3 goals are mistakes from us, individual errors. Maybe about the last one you can debate where is our double 6, but all the others, I think Liverpool did brilliant. How they took over the turnover and how they finished was so good, but they didn't, and I saw the XG that wasn't that high.
So your opinion of the game would be 3 goals from mistakes, sure, but the general play of the game was quite even. Is that your view of it?
No, it's don't argue this. It's clear. They serve in Liverpool, and we have to be humble. We have to take this and then improve our game.
It was no surprise that Casemiro came off at half-time. Was it almost a kindness to him to take him off after such a difficult first half, or are you just thinking, no, this is what the team needs?
The last one, that is what the team needed. You know, when you are 2-0 down against Liverpool, they are so good in, you have to take more risk, it will be more open, and so that is my assessment. It's logical when you are losing the game against Liverpool, you have to take more risk, and I have to give a compliment to the team. They kept fighting, they kept sticking together, but the ground, what you have to cover is bigger, and then you bring a player as Toby Collier, and he has big, great legs, he can cover the ground.
How did Casemiro take the news at half-time? For a player of that status to be taken off at half-time, it's quite a big thing. Did he accept the decision okay?
It's you know the game. He knows the game, and and he will go on. We will go on. It's a great player, and we will continue in the season to improve the team, but also improve the players.
Do you think he can come again? I mean, it's maybe not a nice question to ask, but physically at 32, is there still more to give, do you think?
He improved. He showed so often that he's a great character. And we all have seen great moments from him. Be decisive for us in the midfield, and he will show it again. I'm sure he will bounce back.
Is the worry with today, I don't know if you'd agree with this, that it felt a lot like last season? It was obviously a difficult league campaign last season, but similar in terms of you conceded 3 goals and you conceded a lot of chances on your goal. Did it feel like last season?
I don't think you are right, but you just say I saw the XG which we conceded. We didn't concede so many goals, and no, I don't have the feeling that we are in the same pattern because I didn't see it. I think it was sometimes open, but we took risk, and I think I have seen some good things, but I don't want to talk about this after a defeat from 3-0 against Liverpool. Well done, Liverpool. All the compliments. We have to be humble and we have to improve our team.
I know you just said you don't want to talk about it, but there did feel like a bit of positivity going into today, particularly what you'd done in the transfer window. A couple of performances. I know you lost at Brighton, but does this sort of take away that feeling of positivity? Is that the worry that it sort of sets the tone?
No, not for me. I know many games to play, and I know where we will be in the end of the season. And many games, many leagues, and we will go for trophies, and that will stand.
I was interested to hear you say in the week that you feel like it's a beginning. I think you said beginning of a life cycle, still a team in transition. It's obviously the start of your 3rd year now. How long will this transition take, Eric, do you think?
But in the 2 years, we took 2 prizes, and also in the end of the season, we will see where we are. And but still, we have to fresh up the dressing room, and we bring new players in. Today, first start of Matthijs de Ligt, first start of Joshua Zirkzee. We still some players not available. First start also this season for Garnacho. The opponent is probably a little bit further in certain areas, but we will catch up and we will come back.
So while we all focus on the result, you see good things behind the result?
I don't want to talk about what's today about good things. It's clear we lost 3-0. We have to take this, and now we have to stand up, head up, and bounce back.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Cheers, Eric.
He talks about humility. He talks about accepting the fact that they were second best against Liverpool today, and he says, just at the end of the season, we will win trophies. Still, Gary, you can't escape the fact this is a massive thump on the nose for Manchester United today.
Yeah, it was a bad one. I mean, when the stadium's got about 20,000 fans left in at the end in a major game like this, then basically it's as bad as it can be, and you're 3-0 down. I think the impact of taking Casemiro off will reverberate around the dressing room because he's one of the leaders, just like the Harry Maguire situation we'll have done a year and a half ago, when someone in your dressing room that's important to the group and has got a voice obviously gets hooked at half time like that, and he's made 2 mistakes. It has a big impact, but it's been a really challenging time for Manchester United for 10 years, whether you're Antony, an 80 million winger, Di Maria, an 80 million pound winger, Sancho that's just left this week, whether it's Marcus Rashford, who's a young kid that's coming through the ranks, who's struggling in the second half and the fans are onto him. It's really difficult, and managers have struggled, not just Erik ten Hag, every manager that's come to this club has struggled, and there is a feeling today of, are we going to go through the same thing again? But I think it's a time for a bit of calm. It's an international break, which is probably well needed for United. But Erik ten Hag's going to have to get the club into a position sort of challenging for Champions League towards Christmas, or else he's going to be in trouble. He knows that. He's been influenced to change his team, his staff in the summer. He's brought 2 new coaches in. That is not always ideal as well. So there's new messaging coming in, even though he's been here for 2 years. There's new technical directors, CEOs. There's a lot of change at the club. There are a lot of staff that have been here a long time that are leaving as well. So look, there was going to be some pain along the way of actually, if you like, interfering with the Glazer ownership. We're seeing that pain right here today. It's not going to change quickly. It's a sobering day for United, but one that I think just requires some calm, because we wanted change of ownership and we've got that, and there is some things happening and we have to let it settle in and bed in.
So you're calling for time and patience, quite rightly. We're only 3 games into a new season, but I suppose the question is, when could this get difficult for Erik ten Hag in particular particularly given the fact that they finished 8th last season and lost 14 games last season. That is...
Well, the last week's been different.
It's not a clean slate in that sense.
No, absolutely not. Again, finishing 8 and the amount of games they lost last year, obviously they got out of it with the FA Cup. That kind of lifted everybody. But you look at them fixtures. But for Man United, you wouldn't be taking anything for granted. Southampton away, there was... Fulham here caused them problems. Brighton obviously beat them, and now Brighton are going along nicely. But every game for Man United, I think, would be tough. Particularly, again, when I go back to it, I keep repeating myself. 1 or 2 mistakes, and teams are getting at you that easily, then every game's going to be a challenge.
Jamie, do you think that this manager needs time to deliver the change that the club is making, that Gary's talking about? They made some new signings, but debuts today. Or is there a danger that he is an obstacle to progress?
I'd say the latter. I don't think anything's really going to change in terms of the football that we play. What we saw there, we saw a lot last season where teams are just running at Manchester United's back four. I've seen this with Liverpool, actually. You go back before Jurgen Klopp came in, and there was talk of Brendan Rodgers losing his job at the end of one season. He wasn't sure what to do, FSG, and they kept him, and they changed his staff. Exactly what Erik ten Hag's done here, and you'd expect something different. The manager's the main man. He dictates what goes on here, and not coaches. His philosophy of play, how he wants to play. And Brendan Rodgers was gone in October. And, I mean, Erik ten Hag said in his interview, we'll see where we are at the end of the season. And yeah, it's early days, it's 3 games. I'd be surprised if he was still in charge at the end of the season, because the football, the way they're talking about play, and Jason Wilcox, I think, made a statement last season about a philosophy of play. There isn't one. We can see it with Slot in the first 3 games. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to be successful. There's different ways of playing, but you can already see something, the way they try and play, the profile of players that they're looking for. With Man United, it just looks a mess of players on the pitch. And if I'm being totally honest, I mean, I mentioned this before, but the ownership didn't want to keep him. He won the cup final, and it put them in a position where they weren't sure what to do. So then they were scurrying around Europe, speaking to agents and other managers, seeing if they could find someone better than Erik ten Hag. They didn't feel like they could, so they stuck with the manager, and they didn't have the nerve to make the change that they felt that they needed to do. We know that. And listen, it's probably delaying the inevitable.
Does that make it impossible for him to be successful here, Gary?
Look, there's no doubt. I don't agree with the nerve bit at the end. He used the word bottle up there on the gantry, and that's why we were arguing for 20 minutes. But generally,
we don't know about that. So,
well, he said that the ownership bottled it in not getting rid of him.
Jamie said the ownership bottled it.
Yeah, at the end of the season up there,
they did.
Oh my God, how can you say they bottled it? They were really open about the fact that they went and looked for a manager to try and replace Erik ten Hag. They couldn't find one. Bayern Munich had a few months to replace Tuchel and found it difficult and ended up employing someone as a 3rd and 4th choice. Liverpool had 6 months to replace Klopp and employ Arne Slot was 3rd choice. It wasn't easy to get a manager in at the end of last season for Manchester United or any club in Europe.
So you are openly admitting that they were looking for another manager.
You just said it,
yeah, exactly.
They admitted it.
Exactly. So they're looking for somebody else, and they can't actually get. So they don't want this manager. If you're happy with your manager, you don't start speaking to other managers. The people you're talking about, Bayern Munich and Liverpool, they knew the managers were going 6 months before the end of the season.
And still couldn't find a manager.
I know, it doesn't matter. They had to find somebody. If you're happy with your manager, you don't start flying around Europe speaking to agents.
Erik ten Hag wins the FA Cup, and I think it shocks everybody. It shocks Ineos, and they then think, well, OK, we'll still go and we'll still go and look around Europe and see if we can find a manager. They couldn't find a manager that they felt would take the club forward at this moment in time better than Erik ten Hag could. So he kept his job. Liverpool couldn't find the manager for 2nd and 3rd time. Neither could Bayern Munich. It was hard to find managers at the end of last season. A lot of clubs in Europe were trying to look for a manager and couldn't find one. Ineos tried to look for one to replace Erik ten Hag. They couldn't do, so they decided, because he won the FA Cup, they would stick with him. What part of that don't you understand?
Pardon? Could they have had Arne Slot?
They didn't want Arne Slot, probably. They didn't think that Arne Slot was more of a guarantee to take on this club more than what Erik ten Hag was. Who, to be fair, it shouldn't be sniffed, by the way. It shouldn't be demeaned that 2 trophies in 2 years winning the FA Cup is all of a sudden now a really bad time. Finishing 8th in the league is unacceptable, but they've won 2 trophies in 2 seasons.
He pointed to that this week.
In Manchester United's history, there were many seasons where they went years without winning trophies. So Alex Ferguson, it took him 6-7 years to win the Premier League. It takes time sometimes. Jurgen Klopp, it took 5 years, 6 years. Arteta's on a journey of 5-6 years to try and win a Premier League. If they're winning trophies along the way, they shouldn't be sniffed at.
In Jurgen Klopp's 3rd season, they were in the Champions League final, and you could see something building going forward. If you think,
it's not good enough.
It's what?
It's not good enough.
So how long do you? Why was it going to? For the fact I'm saying that they bottled it in the summer, what was going to be different this season just by changing your staff? What difference were we going to see in Manchester United this
really
season?
Simply, there's a thought process that every manager that's been at Manchester United over the last 10 years is really bad. They're not good enough. What's he called? Van Gaal's not good enough. Rangnick's not good enough. Solskjaer's not good enough. Mourinho's not good enough.
Yeah,
Moyes,
you always blame the Glazers. Who are you going to blame now?
Moyes is not good enough. So what they've tried to do is give a stable platform above him with different people, technical directors, sporting directors, head of recruitment, CEOs, all changed. That actually it might not be the coach that's the problem at the club. It might be the fact that they've not got the right balance around them. So let's get the right support staff in, which is what they've done, and see whether this manager can thrive under a better leadership above him. That's what they've tried. I don't think that's wrong.
Right, do you see progress being made here?
No, listen, you'd be worried for the manager. I would never stand here and say I expect a manager to lose his job, but the pressure, no doubt, from last year. We obviously remember the FA Cup and they got out of jail in a few of the cup games, but the pressure must be building. Whatever you say, I think when you're playing for the big teams, and obviously Man United is one of the biggest, I'd hate this tag if I was playing that you're a cup team. And this is what this team, and that means in terms of league, you can't turn up week in, week out. I'm not talking about challenging Man City or even Arsenal, but I'm talking about competing with Liverpool, Chelsea, obviously teams like Aston Villa, who are at the moment, Spurs are in that mix. And at this moment in time, you look at Man United, and they're slightly behind them. That's the worry for me. Not what Man City and Arsenal are doing, because I do think they need more time.
Do you just want to see progress? Is that what you're looking for? Is it better performances? Is it a consistency of performances?
So.
Is it a style of play?
Arteta, when they first got in, but you always felt, and I know Arteta won the FA Cup pretty quickly, and Klopp was getting to go. There was this element of he had people behind him. The feel-good factor was coming back. But when you keep getting beaten, like they did last year at home, you finish in 8, and you get beaten well today, and you're on the back of a defeat against Brighton, you soon lose that. You know, as I mentioned earlier, when the stadium's getting empty after 60 minutes of the game is over, that will build massive pressure for the manager. Of course it will. It's only natural. But of course I wanted to turn things around. But the longer it takes, and the more you come to matches here and you're getting beaten comfortably by one of your biggest rivals, of course the pressure is going to build.
Daniel, what's your take? You don't have to be an ex-Manchester United player to have a view on what's going on here.
No, I think from a formation perspective, they've gone about this in a way to try and get results, in my opinion. The manager's, missing players that he would probably prefer to have in his starting lineup. So give him a bit of leeway there. But I think in terms of how he set the team up today, I watched them last week play against Fulham. Well, I think it was Fulham last week. The game last week, they lost against Brighton, Yeah. And I was like, they're way too open. They're playing like a 4-2-4. So for me, before the game, I was thinking, surely they're not going to play against Liverpool the same way. So I was disappointed with the way in which the team was set up, because I was surprised by it, to be honest. They were way too open. So it was inevitable that the result was going to be a win for Liverpool based on how Man United were playing, in my opinion.
There's been lots of changes regarding, upstairs or whatever, but supporters want to see stuff on the pitch. Lots of changes. It's the same problems.
But we've seen new signings out there today in De Ligt and Xerxes as well, at the end of a long list. Well, Ugarte is at the end of that long list, and we haven't seen him yet. But in the Erik ten Hag era, £616 million so far. I want to ask Daniel specifically on De Ligt and Xerxes. Do you think these are two players that can take this football club forward?
I'll be totally transparent. I'm not quite sure. I think they're players who are good players. Do I think they're unbelievable top players? I'm not sure about that. But look, they're coming into a team where the manager's identified these players to be guys who he believes can help the team move forward. So at the end of the day, Xerxes for me played well at Bologna. He's got ability. De Ligt, he's been at many top clubs, and he's coming to Manchester United to try and change what's going on right now. But is he at peak form? Is he at the best he's ever been? I'm not sure.
The biggest problem they've got at the moment, that Manchester United is not a destination right now for the top players in Europe anyway. Just isn't. Over the last 10 years, it has been a graveyard for players just generally that have come to the club with big reputations and they've not done well. Whether it's homegrown players, whether it's national players from Great Britain, or whether it's players from international soil. One thing that Roy just said there is that when I came back from Valencia, I think in the April, I came to a game. It was one of Louis van Gaal's last games, and I saw the stadium was sort of half empty during a match. I think they were playing Crystal Palace on like a Tuesday night, and I thought, that is a signal. So today there being 25,000 in with 5 minutes to go is a real problem for Erik ten Hag. That can't continue, and I think he'll get a few months to be able to get used to these new players coming in, Højlund coming back, Agate coming in, and I think they'll assess it at that time. He can't be in 8th at the end of November and going into December. He's got to be up there in that top 4 or 5. He has to be.
So is 6th okay? I'm deadly serious. You tell me, man, for you look and say Manchester United, the biggest club in the world. Would Real Madrid or Bayern Munich accept being 6th in their league? We're saying 8th. That's where we are with Man United right now. That if he's in 8th in a couple of months, he'll be okay.
But you look at his team as well. You ask yourself 1 or 2 mistakes, and teams are getting at you that easily. Then every game's going to be a challenge.
Jamie, do you think that this manager needs time to deliver the change that the club is making, that Gary's talking about? They made some new signings, but debuts today. Or is there a danger that he is an obstacle to progress?
I'd say the latter. I don't think anything's really going to change in terms of the football that we play. What we saw there, we saw a lot last season where teams are just running at Manchester United's back 4. I've seen this with Liverpool, actually. You go back before Jurgen Klopp came in, and there was talk of Brendan Rodgers losing his job at the end of one season. He wasn't sure what to do, FSG, and they kept him, and they changed the staff. Exactly what Erik ten Hag's done here, and you'd expect something different. The manager's the main man. He dictates what goes on here, and not coaches. His philosophy of play, how he wants to play. And Brendan Rodgers was gone in October, and I mean, Erik ten Hag said in his interview, we'll see where we are at the end of the season. And yeah, it's early days, it's 3 games. I'd be surprised if he was still in charge at the end of the season, because the football, the way they're talking about play, and Jason Wilcox, I think, made a statement last season about a philosophy of play. There isn't one. We can see it with Slot in the first 3 games. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to be successful. There's different ways of playing, but you can already see something, the way they try and play, the profile of players that they're looking for. With Man United, it just looks a mess of players on the pitch. And if I'm being totally honest, I mean, I mentioned this before, but the ownership didn't want to keep him. He won the cup final, and it put them in a position where they weren't sure what to do. So then they were scurrying around Europe, speaking to agents and other managers, seeing if they could find someone better than Erik ten Hag. They didn't feel like they could, so they stuck with the manager, and they didn't have the nerve to make the change that they felt that they needed to do. We know that. And listen, it's probably delaying the inevitable.
Does that make it impossible for him to be successful here, Gary?
Look, there's no doubt. I don't agree with the nerve bit at the end. He used the word bottle up there on the gantry, and that's why we were arguing for 20 minutes. But generally, we
don't know about that. So,
well, he said that the ownership bottled it in not getting rid of him.
Jamie said the ownership bottled it.
Yeah,
right,
at the end of the season up there,
they did.
Oh my God, how can you say they bottled it? They were really open about the fact that they went and looked for a manager to try and replace Erik ten Hag. They couldn't find one. Bayern Munich had a few months to replace Tuchel and found it difficult and ended up employing someone as a 3rd and 4th choice. Liverpool had 6 months to replace Klopp and employ Arne Slot was 3rd choice. It wasn't easy to get a manager at the end of last season for Manchester United or any club in Europe.
So you are openly admitting that they were looking for another manager.
You just said it.
Yeah, exactly.
They admitted it.
Exactly. So they're looking for somebody else, and they can't actually get. So they don't want this manager. If you're happy with your manager, you don't start speaking to other managers. The people you're talking about, Bayern Munich and Liverpool, they knew the managers were going 6 months before the end of the season.
Still couldn't find a manager.
I know, it doesn't matter.
It does
they
matter.
had to find somebody. If you're happy with your manager, you don't start flying around Europe speaking to agents.
Erik ten Hag wins the FA Cup, and I think it shocks everybody. It shocks Ineos, and they then think, well, okay, we'll still go and we'll still go and look around Europe and see if we can find a manager. They couldn't find a manager that they felt would take the club forward at this moment in time better than Erik ten Hag could. So he kept his job. Liverpool couldn't find the manager for 2nd and 3rd time. Neither could Bayern Munich. It was hard to find managers at the end of last season. A lot of clubs in Europe were trying to look for a manager and couldn't find one. Ineos tried to look for one to replace Erik ten Hag. They couldn't do, so they decided, because he won the FA Cup, they would stick with him. What part of that don't you understand?
Could they have had Arne Slot?
They didn't want Arne Slot, probably. They didn't think that Arne Slot was more of a guarantee to take on this club more than what Erik ten Hag was. Who, to be fair, it shouldn't be sniffed, by the way. It shouldn't be demeaned that 2 trophies in 2 years winning the FA Cup is all of a sudden now a really bad time. Finishing 8th in the league is unacceptable, but they've won 2 trophies in 2 seasons.
He pointed to that this week.
In Manchester United's history, there were many seasons where they went years without winning trophies. So Alex Ferguson, it took him 6-7 years to win a Premier League. It takes time sometimes. Jurgen Klopp, it took 5 years, 6 years. Arteta's on a journey of 5-6 years to try and win a Premier League. If they're winning trophies along the way, they shouldn't be sniffed at.
In Jurgen Klopp's 3rd season, they were in the Champions League final, and you could see something building going forward. If you think,
it's not good enough.
It's what?
It's not good enough.
So how long do you? Why was it going to? For the fact I'm saying that they bottled it in the summer, what was going to be different this season just by changing your staff? What difference were we going to see in Manchester United this
really
season?
Simply, there's a thought process that every manager that's been at Manchester United over the last 10 years is really bad. They're not good enough. What's he called? Van Gaal's not good enough. Rangnick's not good enough. Solskjaer's not good enough. Mourinho's not good enough.
Yeah,
Moyes,
you always blame the Glazers. Who are you going to blame now?
Moyes is not good enough. So what they've tried to do is give a stable platform above him with different people, technical directors, sporting directors, head of recruitment, CEOs, all changed. That actually it might not be the coach that's the problem at the club. It might be the fact that they've not got the right balance around them. So let's get the right support staff in, which is what they've done, and see whether this manager can thrive under a better leadership above him. That's what they've tried. I don't think that's wrong.
Roy, do you see progress being made here?
No, listen, you'd be worried for the manager. I would never stand here and say I expect the manager to lose his job, but the pressure, no doubt, from last year. We obviously remember the FA Cup and they got out of jail in a few of the cup games, but the pressure must be building. Whatever you say, I think when you're playing for the big teams, and obviously Man United is one of the biggest, I'd hate this tag if I was playing that you're a cup team. And this is what this team, and that means in terms of league, you can't turn up week in, week out. I'm not talking about challenging Man City or even Arsenal, but I'm talking about competing with Liverpool, Chelsea, obviously teams like Aston Villa, who are at the moment, Spurs are in that mix. And at this moment in time, you look at Man United and they're slightly behind them. That's the worry for me. Not what Man City and Arsenal do, because I do think they need more time.
Do you just want to see progress? Is that what you're looking for? Is it better performances? Is it a consistency in performances?
So.
Is it a style
Klopp
of play?
And Arteta, when they first got in, but you always felt, and I know Arteta won the FA Cup pretty quickly and Klopp was getting to go, there was this element of he had people behind him, the feel-good factor was coming back. But when you keep getting beaten, like they did last year at home, you finish in 8 and you get beaten well today and you're on the back of a defeat against Brighton, you soon lose that. You know, as I mentioned earlier, when the stadium's getting empty after 60 minutes or the game is over, that will build massive pressure for the manager. Of course it will. It's only natural. But of course I wanted to turn things around. But the longer it takes, and the more you come to matches here and you're getting beaten comfortably by one of your biggest rivals, of course the pressure is going to build.
Daniel, what's your take? You don't have to be an ex-Manchester United player to have a view on what's going on here.
No, I think from a formation perspective, they've gone about this in a way to try and get results, in my opinion. The manager's, missing players that he would probably prefer to have in his starting lineup, so give him a bit of leeway there. But I think in terms of how he set the team up today, I watched them last week play against Fulham. Well, I think it was Fulham last week. The game last week, they lost against Brighton, yeah. And I was like, they're way too open. They're playing like a 4-2-4. So for me, before the game, I was thinking, surely they're not going to play against Liverpool the same way. So I was disappointed with the way in which the team was set up, because I was surprised by it, to be honest. They were way too open. So it was inevitable that the result was going to be a win for Liverpool based on how Man United were playing, in my opinion.
There's been lots of changes regarding, upstairs or whatever, but supporters want to see stuff on the pitch. Lots of changes. It's the same problems.
But we've seen new signings out there today in De Ligt and Xerxes as well, at the end of a long list. Well, Ugarte is at the end of that long list, and we haven't seen him yet. But in the Eric Ten Hag era, £616 million so far. I want to ask Daniel specifically on De Ligt and Xerxes. Do you think these are two players that can take this football club forward?
I'll be totally transparent. I'm not quite sure. I think they're players who are good players. Do I think they're unbelievable top players? I'm not sure about that. But look, they're coming into a team where the manager's identified these players to be guys who he believes can help the team move forward. So at the end of the day, Xerxes for me played well at Bologna. He's got ability. De Ligt, he's been at many top clubs and he's coming to Manchester United to try and change what's going on right now. But is he at peak form? Is he at the best he's ever been? I'm not sure.
The biggest problem they've got at the moment, that Manchester United is not a destination right now for the top players in Europe anyway. Just isn't. Over the last 10 years, it has been a graveyard for players just generally that have come to the club with big reputations and they've not done well. Whether it's homegrown players, whether it's national players from Great Britain, or whether it's players from international soil. One thing that Roy just said there is that when I came back from Valencia, I think in the April, I came to a game. It was one of Louis van Gaal's last games, and I saw the stadium was sort of half empty during a match. I think they were playing Crystal Palace on like a Tuesday night, and I thought, that is a signal. So today there being 25,000 in with 5 minutes to go is a real problem for Erik ten Hag. That can't continue, and I think he'll get a few months to be able to get used to these new players coming in, Højlund coming back, Agate coming in, and I think they'll assess it at that time. He can't be in 8th at the end of November and going into December. He's got to be up there in that top 4 or 5. He has to be.
So is 6th okay? I'm deadly serious. You tell me, man, for you used to say Manchester United, the biggest club in the world. Would Real Madrid or Bayern Munich accept being 6th in their league? We're saying 8th. That's where we are with Man United right now. That if he's in 8th in a couple of months, he'll be okay.
You look at his team as well. You ask yourself,
That's not gone to plan at all. Why has it gone the way that it did?
No, obviously they were in the front foot. I think we started really well the game. We got some chances. We have to be more clinical. We had this in the first game. We made the first 2 chances we had against Fulham. Also, we need to be more clinical. They were clinical. They knew how to make sure that they get into the spaces we let free for them, and that's it.
For you, it's not about picking out individuals or teammates, but did it feel like the goals were self-inflicted today, their goals?
And the goals are always self-inflicted, either way you want or not. Every goal, most of the times, you need to commit a mistake for give them the goal. But it's not about that. It's more than that. So we don't have to be here pointing fingers to everyone and saying that you should have done better, you should have done this, you should have done that. It's not going to help us now. So it's not the point.
And when you say it was more than that, it was more than individuals, what would you say it was?
No, what I mean is, like, when you concede a goal, you can't just point at one mistake.
It's usually more than one.
Yeah, it's more than that, and obviously we can say that, if you lose the ball there in the middle and everything, but what's the point now saying that Casemiro lost the ball, Kobe lost the ball? We're going to lose the ball if we want to take risks. They lost the ball because they wanted to be on the ball. They were brave. They have to do better in that moment. Of course they have, as everyone else has to do better in many moments, but it's part of football. They huge players for us, and so don't make it individual that.
Yeah, and what's your role as captain when a guy's made a mistake or had a bad day? How do you help them?
Gus it's more experienced than me, so I don't need to tell him anything. He knows what football is about, and he knows that he's gonna get something now after the game and everything. But he played for the 2 best clubs in the world, so he's used to that. So it's not gonna be never a problem for him to deal with that. And Kobe is an excellent kid that works a lot, works hard, wants to be on the ball. He's really brave. So I want him to be more times on the ball. I want him to try more and do this kind of plays, because it's part of his game and he's strong. So I don't want them to stop and now thinking about the mistake or something. They don't need. They're huge players for us, and they will keep being.
There's been some positivity, I think, around the club. The first couple of weeks, I know you lost to Brighton, but also what the club had done in the transfer market. Is the problem with today? Did it feel quite a lot like some of the bad days last season?
No, we don't have to look at the past and think that every time that something happens, it's for something that we did bad in the past, so it's coming to happen the same again. We just have to make it different. That's it. We lost the game. Congratulations to Liverpool. They were more clinical than us. I think if I don't like to talk about stats, but the game was tight. But at the end of the day, is who score more goals that wins the game. So they did it. They win the game. Congratulations to them. They were better than us in that aspect, and we have to carry on and understand what we've
been joined by the godfather of Premier League goalkeepers, Peter Schmeichel, who was watching not too far away from us. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. I wish I didn't have to do this.
You were hoping to be standing here in different circumstances.
Yes,
how difficult a watch was that for you?
That was a really, really hard watch. I mean, Bruno says a lot of things there, where I'm like, that's not the game that I watched. I don't think it was a tight game. I think Liverpool dominated from the very first second. When you're in the stand and watching the game, and not watching, we watch a lot of games on TV, you don't really see everything that goes on. What really struck me today was how divided Manchester United is as a team. So at any given point, there's this massive gap in the middle of the park where you got 4 players always stood up front, and then you got the rest trying to defend. At this level, against teams like Liverpool, that's not good enough. That simply is not good enough. I won't accuse anybody of being lazy, but maybe just not informed enough for what their jobs are on the team. But that was really disappointing.
Knowing their role, you mean?
Exactly. So on the flip side of that, every time Liverpool lost the ball, you see everyone trying to chase the ball and win it back, and they win it back within 5-6 seconds, and that's not once in a while, it's every single time. When Manchester United lost the ball, nothing happened. Liverpool were allowed to play it.
Why is that then?
I think it's down to midfield players not playing the position properly. The amount of time the middle of that pitch is vacated is ridiculous. You saw it every time they lost the ball. Well, not every time, but 3 times, 3 goals, all from midfield areas. Kobe Man, who's deep, loses the ball. Collier, as a young kid, you got to give him a chance, obviously. But he's almost playing as a number 10, and there's 3 or 4 Liverpool players in front of him. All of a sudden, just rampaging on to the back 4. So is
that ill discipline then in that role?
Of course it is, yeah. And in a big game like this, you need to have discipline. You have to have at least 2 people in the middle of the pitch to play the position properly. Don't even think about getting forward. You think about staying there, controlling the game. Don't let them go through us. Don't let them attack onto our defence, because they are brilliant. The 3 midfielders are brilliant. The 3 forwards that they've got are sensational. So you can't handle that. You have to play with discipline. Now I think our back 4, back 5 will be okay eventually, but what's in front of it needs sorting out quickly.
Yeah. I'll take it one step further up. When you look at Salah, Diaz, Jota, they work so hard. I mean, every single time they don't have the ball, they come back and work so hard. I didn't see that from our front 3 today. I didn't. At times, Bruno realised no one's working hard to get the ball back, so he was coming back. He was playing more like a striker today with Serki up there. That was the idea, that he should be up there. He wasn't supposed to run all the way down and stand in front of the back 4.
He always does that though, Peter. He's so ill-disciplined in his game. Anyway, you could come to left back, get the ball, go to right back. Please just play your position. I've said it so many times.
But we're used to having white players working back, doubling up with the full-backs, making sure that those spaces are covered. It was far too easy for Liverpool today because Rashford's not running back, Garnacho's not running back too much. And when Garnacho was running back, it was kind of like sort of half-hearted, not really doing the right run. I'm a little bit not shocked, but I'm surprised at how it was today, sitting in the stand and having watched the previous games on TV where you don't see everything. You can point to look at little things that you normally don't see on TV and see. You realise why things are happening, because what you just spotted there. For instance, Rashford not tracking back or Garnacho not tracking back, and then that space that Liverpool was so good at today at exploiting appears. And fair dues to Liverpool, they played really well today. They took full advantage of what was given to them. But we conceded 3 goals on 3 identical mistakes. Midfield players trying to run the first one was a pass, a really, really bad pass. The next 2 was exactly the same. Midfield players trying to run the ball up. And then when they lost the ball, everybody just stood still. If that happened with Liverpool today, everybody would react and straight away come back and help the team. And that is what I think that Ten Hag really needs to improve his team on.
I think that comes down to discipline, though, because once they lose the ball, everybody's out of position. Now, we all know, look, midfield is a big part of the game. You have to link with your forwards, you have to link with your defence. And the midfield is just wrong. It's just so vacant that they do not play the position well enough. So if the midfield's not working, everything else can't work. You can't bring attackers into the game. Both attackers are so wide, and that's why it disappoints me a little bit, not so much Casemiro giving the ball away, but his experience. Bring these for 5 minutes, bring Rashford in next to me. Sometimes you've got three or 4 players against 2 midfield players. Bring them in. Get Garnacho in for 5 minutes. Bring Rashford in for 5 minutes. Just settle the game down. Try and work your way into the game. And then all of a sudden, you might get a bit of control. Then you can bring your forwards into play. Marcus, go on, get back out. Get back out wide. We're in control. Everything's okay in here now. We can bring the forward player into the game. And on the other hand, when you're in the wrong positions, like we say, the deep midfield player losing the ball, all of a sudden you're onto back four because you're the midfield player gone up the pitch when you're not in control of the game, and it just leaves a big space right through the middle of you. And then all of a sudden, decent defenders look bad defenders because they're not being protected.
Do you? So when I hear Ten Hag talk about his idea, he talks about he's got a plan and there's a structure and there's discipline that you need to have. Do you see that in the team?
I just see a team that plays completely without discipline more than anything.
Do you see the plan?
Do you?
At the minute, no.
I don't see it. I haven't seen it for a while. And
have you seen it at all in a couple of years?
I don't understand. No, and I don't understand it. I don't understand. So when it comes to we're 3-0 down. You got a young lad sat there on the bench who has scored a ton of goals for the youth teams. With 3-0 down, why not put him on instead of he takes Zerkey off, he takes the striker off. Why not give him 10 minutes? What if he scored? What would that do for the next 2 months for the team, for him? That would give him another option as a manager. Why not try it out? I mean, in our time, so obviously I was a senior player when you went into the team. We had 5 players, young players at the same time in the team. And sometimes, yes, it didn't work, but only sometimes. But when it works...
Slightly different group of players in all fairness.
You need to try it out. If you have him on the bench...
Peter, look at the difference in squads today, though. You think of their first team, wow, brilliant. Then you look at the bench.
Yeah, I know.
Then you look at the list, or you turn to the right-hand side, you look at our bench, you think, what's he going to do? What can he do? Now, this is his third, he's into his third season, and we've not got them options still. The first 11 probably still isn't good enough. They've got Hoyland, who's probably missing. He's probably the only one that is missing. But you think about going to young kids, as he says, and look, young kids need chances, of course they do, but is today the right place to do it? I don't know, but the squad is just far too light.
How can it be like that with the money that's been spent and everything else? I mean, and I listen and I take your points and everything else, but the book ends up having to stop with the manager. It absolutely. If you switch those two managers around and say, right, 6 months, come and watch again, Pete. You fly over, get in the same seat. 6 months, having managed each team, I can pretty much guarantee that Manchester United team will be a different team.
I think it'll be a different team, but I still think Liverpool would win.
Possibly. What if Ten Hag was managing them?
Yeah. That is some sort
that's a good debate. Can I just throw another one in? We saw Manuel Ugarte introduced to the crowd. He wanted to come over and meet Paul as well, which
he's going to have to be some player, Steve.
Well, my question was, what difference is he going to make?
Well, I think he will play the position well. He still, I think he's 23 now. He's had a few clubs which slightly concerns you, but he does play the position well. I don't think he'll vacate that area as much as we've seen.
A bit more discipline.
A bit more discipline. He'll plug the gaps. I hope that's going to be his role. I don't think he's going to be the greatest of playmakers. I don't think you're looking at Tony Cruz, but he's going to have to. He needs discipline in there. He's obviously seen that already. That Casemiro, okay, not great legs. I don't think Maino as an athlete is that great. He relies on more his manipulation of the ball and his quality on the ball. So Ugarte, he's got to be everything. He's going to have to be some player to make this team better. It's a big job he's got in his hands, and I just can't see it.
Just on your point there, he's cost over £42 million. Since Erik Ten Hag arrived, they're the second biggest spenders behind Chelsea. £540 million.
Yeah.
Manchester United have spent since Erik Ten Hag took over.
I'm just fed up of players. It's always the next player coming in. Oh, the next player coming in, and how many times is the next player coming in? Oh, the next player coming in, and how many times are we going to stand here and say, oh yeah, another player? Are we going to throw another 50 million or 100 million? Oh, that'll plug the gap, and now it'll be all right. Listen, viewers that have watched this show for quite a while cannot believe that Erik Ten Hag has been given another season. I just don't get it. I sort of get it for internal reasons. The new people that have come in all of a sudden, they get 2 bites of the cherry. Ten Hag was never their pick, so if things go wrong, they can change, and now this is our team now. Whereas if they'd made a change straight away, then all of a sudden the gun is to their head. It's right, well, now you've got to sink or swim. But, I mean, I still don't. I'd love the lads to tell me what are Manchester? Are they a front foot pressing team? Are they a counter-attacking team? Are they If somebody asked me, I still, having watched them for 2 and a bit years.
These opportunities now, obviously he comes in, Eric. He comes in with a really, really good reputation. He's allowed to. Obviously he comes in, Eric. He comes in with a really, really good reputation. He's allowed to spend a lot of money. He's bringing Casemiro and Anthony in, which changes the whole club. The structure of the club changes because of that. I think part of the reason that the sale happened was because they had to finance those two players. So from that moment on, the club changed. Then you have somebody coming in, running the club. And there's been opportunities to make those changes, make those really, really big statements saying that these are our standards and we will not tolerate any less than this. When we lost 4-1 to Crystal Palace, tolerate any less than this. When we lost 4-1 to Crystal Palace here, that was, for me, that was a moment where they could have made that big change.
What about 4-0 away at Crystal Palace or whatever the score was?
Yeah, but this was like the fourth
It was at Selhurst Park, yeah.
That was
towards the end of last season.
Towards the so there's 4 more games, including the FA Cup final.
That was at Selhurst.
That was so. When that game was lost, that was the opportunity where they could have said, "This, we won't tolerate this. That tolerate this." That would have made everybody who's in here today, everybody who loves Man United, understand that now it's a different Manchester United. The standards they require. And start all over again. That was an opportunity. They haven't taken that. They've supported the manager. They've to get somebody else in and start all over again. That was an opportunity. They haven't taken that. They've supported the manager. They've given him money. Now, we've played 3 games. We've lost 2. I don't see the difference. And this is what I could nearly cry because of that, because I want this team to do really, really well.
They've not only done that, but they've also then gone and got rid of half the back rooms. They've now got 2 new assistant managers. All the medical team have all gone. So it's not only right they've back, yes, you can continue, but they've now backed him even more and got all his own men around him. So I just think they've backed themselves into a right hole now. It's worrying. I just bang it on for years and years and years. It just doesn't seem to be getting any better, and I think the buck stops at the top, I'm afraid.
I've sat with Sir Alex today. It's really sad. I mean, what he did for this football club, and what everything that we enjoyed. Yeah. 3 of us. Well, you were there as well, by the 4 of us. Everything that we enjoyed, the great times, everything.
Future, of course, is Manchester United after the international break, trying to bounce back after those 2 defeats in the opening 3 games. Now, before we let you go, we want to go back to 1998, because it's not very often you 2 are together, is it? We did show it to Michael at the top of the show.
Oh, it's not about me then.
This is cruel. This is me trying.
98, because it's not very often you 2 are together, is it? We did show it to Michael at the top of the show.
Oh, it's not about me then.
This is cruel. This is me trying to kick you, mate.
Watch this for a tackle. Watch this for a tackle.
I've never seen that, by the way.
You can see it now.
Oh, what are you doing?
I slipped, Pete. I slipped, and you landed on me.
Did I?
I came off worse. Look, see me holding my stomach.
Yellow card, Peter.
Oh, you got a yellow card for that,
Look at me slip, though. Slip.
Oh, how do you split?
Peter, you could have done it, mate. You could have the elbow right next
I'm not like that. I'm not like that.
Well, he is. He says he's not like that.
You slipped. That's brilliant. Do you know what?
Oh, you got a great.
That was a yellow card. At this point, you've already scored.
Yeah.
Then you got that yellow card, and then 5 minutes later, right here, actually, exactly where we are here.
Yeah, it's not my finest moment.
You got another one.
You don't want to see that tackle either.
No. Anyway, can we let Peter go now?
No.
The great news is, you're great friends. That's the good news. We've moved on.
Yeah.
Good to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Right, more Manchester United reaction on the way, because we will hear after. Reports, I'm told on social media, that Casemiro left this stadium during the second half. Erik ten Hag has since said in his press conference, I believe, that didn't happen. But either way, for someone who's won 5 Champions Leagues, to be playing Liverpool at home and to be taken off at half-time, can you try and put yourself in his shoes at that stature of player today?
Yeah, look, it's difficult for him to take. Of course it is, and he will be angry. He'll be angry at his performance more than anything. And we've all been there. We've all been there. We've all had terrible halves of football, and you get taken off half time. I mean, it's difficult to recover. But as you said, 5 Champions League. He's got great experience. Been in the best team in the world, probably Real Madrid for some time. So, look, he'll bounce back. He needs help around him. If he's going to be playing in this team now, Ugarte might be that man. But as I've said numerous times now, they've got to get the middle of the pitch right, I think, to get everything else in the team right. But I still think there's some way off. And do you know what? I've also said this before. They look fitter, they look stronger. They're obviously better, obviously more quality. And this game, it feels like it came too early for Man United. You know, if you get to November time, now look, there's every chance the same thing could happen because of the quality they've got. But I just think it came a little bit early. And I keep going on about the middle of the pitch being, Michael might disagree, I don't know, being such an important area. Look at Liverpool's team. The manager didn't bring any of their 3 midfield players off, and it just works. It worked perfectly. They've got a great mix. They've got legs. They've got the ability of McAllister on the ball to slow things down when he needs to. And then you've got the squad of players that he's got, the pick of the bench to come on and change it up front if it's not quite working. You've never seen Liverpool exposed there, did you? It's because their midfield players are playing their positions properly. As we've said so many times, losing the ball. And then the other, did he say double six? I think he said, didn't he? Which is so far away from a double six I've ever seen. If I know what a double six is, I'm taking that as 2 holding midfield players. None of them hold. They all must play as number 10s. And once one of them loses possession, like I said before, if it was Casemiro in the first half, Mainoo's up the pitch, nowhere to be seen. Mainoo loses the ball, and we saw a picture of Colley's playing almost as a number 10. You can't perform that because at times you are going to lose the ball. Now look, if Liverpool lost the ball, I'd expect them to be in all in the right position. As Peter said, they go hunting the ball down and they get it back quickly. With United, there's nobody there because there's 4 people stood up the pitch. I'm sure the manager's hoping this new lad coming in will help with that.
And today, losing the ball in that area of the pitch cost them all the goals, which were clinically taken. As Erik ten Hag said, they were all United mistakes.
They were, but Scholes, you were talking before, a mistake doesn't have to mean a goal, and that's the problem. If they're all out of position, then they can't even rectify a mistake because there's nobody there to rectify it. But from Liverpool's point of view, absolutely brilliant. You know, they were clinical. That was an amazing ball from Mo Salah on his weak foot, just floating. Mistake in the midfield, getting caught on the ball, and this finish, wow. I mean, first time, not an easy finish at all. You're not even facing the goal, and he whipped it into the near corner. I think the goalkeeper gets his angles wrong here because it doesn't really take such an accurate shot from Mo Salah. But again, he gives him the eyes, opens the body up, whips it round his body into the near post, and Liverpool were very clinical. I think, just going back to your point as well on Casemiro, I think the worry for him and the worry for Manchester United, for that matter, is if there was other great players playing, around him and he got dragged off at half-time, you think, OK, but this is a 5-time Champions League winner. This is one of the most decorated players in history, and he's getting dragged off, making his
Would that be incredibly hard to take if that was you?
And there's another kid, basically, that's only just learning about the game playing next year. So it's not like it's a great midfield and you're getting taken out of it. That's pretty damning.
And with Ugarte, who we met today briefly, coming in, is Casemiro the immediate future for Manchester United from the start in a game like this?
Possibly not. And I think that there's a time that comes when... Look, he's never had great legs anyway, has he? He's always time that comes when... Look, he's never had great legs anyway, has he? He's always been a brilliant player of controlling that part of the pitch and playing the position brilliant at Real Madrid. Everything he's not really doing here. Now, I could see him playing with Ugarte. I suppose they've got to try and shore it up somehow and get that position right. But there are games like this, as you mentioned, Steve, there are some games you can play. Look, you get to 33, 34, 35, you think, I can't play in that. I mean, when it was me, it was Manchester City, I thought, no, I just don't involve me in that because it'll make us a worse team. It'll be too easy to play against. You have to eventually play kids. Well, not so much kids. We have people like Darren Fletcher who play in the middle of the park, Ji-Sung Park, great legs and get to the ball all the time. But when you look at the bench, there's just not that there. There's not the squad depth to actually do it. Now, they've got the young kid and they bring him on his Premier League debut. Do you know what? He actually did okay. But I think that's the most disappointing thing, squad-wise, is he's into his third year and the squad just isn't strong enough.
That's United, but let's just finish. What a start for Slot and for Liverpool.
Incredible, yeah. They look efficient, they look assured, and I think it all stems from the manager, Steve. I mean, the way he stands, the way he presents himself, the way he talks. I just think that he's looking like he's got something special.
Gentlemen, thank you for your company today. We hope you enjoyed that match day live on the road at Old Trafford. It will be a happy Monday for the Red of Liverpool, not Manchester. Not Manchester. From the three of us, see you soon.